Chugach and Talkeetnas on the east and the north, the Kanik Arm joining them to the Cook Inlet in the south. The moose, the bear, the spruce, the snow. The Matanuska Valley was her valley. The people were her people. She'd known them almost all of her life. But more than that, she belonged here. It was etched on her soul. Gwyn's thoughts went back to their comfortable place. Worry. What would the government board members require of them? Would they ask her father to take another post? How could she leave her home? She had a few memories of life back in Chicago, but they were disconnected, unreal. This place, Alaska, held her in its mesmerizing grip. She didn't want or need change. Change meant new, different. But most of all, change meant heartache. Gwyn unwound the fabric from her fingers and attempted to press it flat. Each tick of the clock seemed to span longer with each beat. She folded the kerchief in rhythm, feeling as if time almost stood still. She allowed herself to dart a glance to the clock over the fireplace in the large meeting room. It couldn't be working properly. Good grief, she'd allowed her nerves to get the best of her once again. With a huff, Gwyn blew a few curls off her forehead. She stood and walked around the room before she could mangle the monogrammed cloth in her hands. Again. Time to get her mind off these worrisome thoughts. Worry never helped. Besides, it was a sin. She could almost hear Nasnana's voice, in her gentle, sing-song way, drilling those words into her as a child. A lesson she still needed to learn. The older native woman had taken Gwyn under her wing at an early age, when Gwyn formed an attachment to Nasnana's granddaughter, Sadzi. The two girls had been inseparable, and Gwyn would always be grateful for the woman's guiding hand in her life. But even with Nasnana's advice and direction, Gwyn's habit of getting into worry had gotten her into trouble on multiple occasions. A glance down at the frayed fabric between her fingers proved she hadn't conquered it yet. But she would. With a nod to emphasize her point, she tucked the hanky into her pocket and focused her thoughts on the furnishings around her. Dark wood beams covered the ceiling, but the log building's interior walls were plastered and painted a creamy white. 3 long tables surrounded the room, but they wouldn't do at all. Crossing her arms, Gwyn cocked her head to the right and narrowed her gaze. The chairs sat in a crooked line, if one could even call it a line. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason whatsoever. Well, she could fix that. Gwyn scurried around the room, straightening chairs and the several sets of wooden benches that took up residence in the middle. Another glance at the clock. Bother. That spent all of 2 minutes. She blew a stray curl off her forehead. She needed something to occupy her mind, something other than worry. As the fire roared in the grand fireplace, Gwyn looked out one of the windows. Snow dwelt 2 inches above the ledge, and they still had a good bit of winter left. A memory surfaced. Father? The newspaper crinkled. I'm sorry, Gwyn, did you say something? Do you remember the winter we had blizzard after blizzard, and the snow reached the roof? I do. He chuckled, and the paper rustled some more in his hands. You dug tunnels all the way around the house. Oh, the energy of youth. She laughed with him and crossed her arms. If I recall, you helped. It had been a tough winter, their first without her mother and sister. I did. He patted the chair next to him with the now folded newsprint. Come, sit. Plopping down onto the seat in a manner her mother would deem unladylike, Gwyn fidgeted some more. Her father reached out a strong hand and covered both of hers. I'm sure it will be good news, my dear. What's causing all these nervous jitters?